shows up in the file name that
Yes,
you're
like your
previewing.
workspace.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hold on, that's very maybe ignorant of me, I should know that. So, you're talking now about all these, I see always this sRGB, but that's exactly the one that we need to use for web? Or?
Yeah. sRGB was. We went over this in the first part of the class.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm
I'll
just joking with you. I'll quickly go over it again. Maybe it'll
Oh.
be refreshed for everybody.
Let's just show her after.
Don't worry, keep going. We'll do it later.
It'll take a minute here. All right. So this is Adobe RGB right here, right? That's Adobe RGB. This is sRGB. So that's the color gamut, the available colors in those two spaces. So you see sRGB is quite a bit smaller than Adobe RGB. Adobe RGB is meant to be a working color space that's the color space you're actually color correcting in. sRGB is a destination color space, and it was created to represent the available colors for most monitors. So it's a good one if you're working for web projects or for video projects. You're going to have the most consistency across people's monitors if you're working in sRGB. Okay. Back to the monkey.
Maybe we shouldn't get that back to fuchsia. Fire with color.
So we went over
Thank you.
the info palette. Yep. We also have the histogram, which shows a representation of the image. Basically, it shows like a graph of where the values in the image lie. You can see that this image has values across the whole histogram. Basically, to the left would be your black value, and then all the way to the right would be your whites. So as you can see in this particular image, we have a good range of values. We don't have anything peaking. Peaking basically would mean if you see these peaks go all the way up past the top here, that means basically you're losing information. You're clipping. Too much of your image is of this one value, and it's clipping. You're losing information. But we have actually a pretty good histogram here. The histogram can be important to see if there's color casts. In this image you probably won't see it, but if we go to all channel view, okay.
Not enough memory?
Not enough room.
Not enough room. Let me put this back. Let's move this over. Here we go. All right. So if this had a color cast to it, you can actually look at the histogram. You can look at the histogram for green, blue, and red, red, green, blue, and then see what areas are missing information. If this had like a severe color cast, and actually what I'll do is I'm gonna just do curves real quick, and we'll just give it a color cast.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay, so that might represent a color cast in the image, and you can see how like the red starts way over here. It's basically being clipped. So you can look at the histogram and see exactly where your color cast is, and that'll help for correcting it. Let's see, covers. So right now I'm going to kind of go over your question.
What's it mean when the histogram has like a lot of white lines in it? Like
that's if you see vertical white lines in your histogram, that means there's gaps of information. There's no value there, and that means you're getting a lot of breakup in your image. You try to avoid that if you can at all costs. It usually means it's been overcorrected. So you want to avoid that if you can.
In general, I've seen that after I run too much unsharp. I'll get that line pattern.
Yeah, unsharp mask will definitely do that, because what you're doing is you're creating contrast between edges, and that's basically what you're having. You're having a high peak of detail, and you're having a value, a valley of no detail, and a peak and valley. So you're having this real drastic shift of information there. So you do definitely want to avoid that if you can at all times. I'm going to quickly just go over there's lots of different tools to correct an image. You have, for instance, in this case, I'm going to go over just brightening and contrasting an image. some of the tools, you have brightness, contrast, you have curves, levels. A lot of times people ask, which one should I use? You know, I like to use levels. Well, I like to use curves. Well, really, these are, if we look at the values, like this first one, brightness, contrast, is just a contrast of 25%, right there. And then we have curves, which if you did 25% of the 256, which is the total amount of values for RGB, it's 32. So both these points, the black and white point, are at 32 to give it more contrast. You can see that the result is exactly the same. And in levels, same thing. You just move the black and white point to 32 points in, and again the values are exactly the same. So the results, the possible results, are identical for at least the brightness, contrast between these different tools. The difference between them is the functionality, the options that you have to work with. For instance, brightness, contrast doesn't really give you a lot of choice. There's not much you can do. You can make it, give it more contrast, or you can brighten it. Right. So you don't have a lot of control over how it's going to affect the image. And with levels, you can adjust the black point, the white point, midpoint, and you can do it per color channel, which is good. So that's better than the brightness, contrast. So you're getting decent control there. But with the curves, you have pretty much total control over it. You can pick a point anywhere and move it to exactly where you want. You can get these crazy curves that really fluctuate around. So curves really gives you the most control out of those devices, out of those tools, and that's the one I would use most often. But sometimes you just want to, increase the contrast. So, if that's all you need to do, brightness, contrast could work. Levels would be fine. The end result would be the same if that's all you wanted to do. But if you wanted more control over it, you'd want to pick a different tool.
Yeah, I feel I always use. I like the curves, but then sometimes the levels is the easiest if you know you have an image that is just.
Yeah, it's all
it's just a little bit, and you can just quick the black and white, and then
that's normally what I use.
And it's the quickest way.
By the time I get stuff, it doesn't always need a lot of color correcting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you do have a lot of people out there that you use brightness, contrast, or you use levels. That's like, they shun it or they look down on it. It doesn't matter. The end result is the same. It's just the control you have over your settings there are different.